Planning for Real it's a kind of neighbourhood development, neighbourhood engagement tool. It is part of the Accord group we're part of. It does sit within our group by somebody very talented individual, Margaret. Now, what Planning for Real does is it engages with all of the partners in an area, so from fire, police to neighbourhood wardens to local authority, resident groups, residents of course, and the whole kind of community setup, and it goes out to those. It often and usually goes to schools, and it tries to get the school children to be part of it. Most Planning for Reals will have an exercise where you will create depending on the size of the area, a usually fairly large 3D map of the area, and that map is set on polystyrene. And that allows you then to, and once it's finished and the school kids do it, it always looks wonderful. School kids can't make things look bad because that's so artistic and there's so much imagination, and grass may be red and trees may be blue, but it looks great. And we end up with an enormous an area that maps a map rather of the whole area. And the beauty of polystyrene is that with just the simple cocktail stick or something similar, you can actually start to get people to add to it with flags or comments on things. And that's what we do. We take those maps, Planning for All takes those maps to relevant community events, it creates its own events, and it gets people's opinions. And again, the emphasis being on what do the people who live in the area want, not what do the providers who provide in the area want to give. They should give what the people want if they're going to give anything. Because again, if you make a presumption about what's good for an area and you've not asked, in the past, I think it's particularly been proven that you often get it wrong, or you often make something that people feel is quite irrelevant, or it may help, but it's not a long-term solution. The other thing is, even if you get it right, if people have had no part in the process, they might feel it's a little bit alien to them. If you get people within the process, and what you thought might be an answer is an answer, or it slightly has to change, people who've been in that process see it happen, and they really like that. You have to, I think, be realistic with Planning for Real. If people are all going to say that what they actually want is a new town centre, you have to be realistic. But if that's what they say, that's what they say. So in a way, that could end up similar as neighbourhood development planning, in that you could create a lot of aspirations. I think some of them will be achievable, some of them will be bigger aspirations, and Planning for All allows for that, and it allows a process where by the end of it, people will have a realistic set of aims that they can get, and then they might have a realistic set of kind of requests and aspirations that they can park somewhere and say these are the big things if the money's ever available. But right now we can achieve beneath those big things 100 little things that will make a big difference. So it's a very interactive, very community-led, a very, very effective way of doing resident engagement and improving areas. Planning for Real is as I say, it has similarities, but it's a way, it's kind of a less, I would say, a less academic perhaps way of actually getting to right within the community, very quickly, and getting real opinions out there. And as I say, often a community will start with an aspiration or an issue, and it's important, I think, to see how the rest of the community feel about that aspiration and issue in the first instance, and to check that to check how localised it is or not. And Planning for Real can really do that. It can go out to bigger crowds at other corners of the estate or the town or the whatever village, and actually say, do you share these and stuff? And it's not to do anything to stop the original aspiration, that still exists, but it's just to understand, who might be helpful for that aspiration, who might want to join in and kind of get the opinions of everyone. And as I say, it's another way, it's another tool to do community development and improve community. It's very much about conversations, and it's very much through conversations kind of trying to get shared kind of aspirations. So, but yeah, it's about talking to people and starting with school children as well. And I think that's because they're often young people are missed, but they're soon to be, time moves quickly and they're soon out of school. And how, if you lose the young people from an area, then you lose a lot of the vibrancy. So if all of your young people are travelling 5 miles because there's nothing to do in their area, you need to know about that. And both neighbourhood planning and other things, but planning for real, it finds that out because it has them so involved. They're making maps. As an example, I did one for Balsall Heath, planning for real. We made a big map of Balsall Heath, and the school kids were fascinated by a bit of the map. 3 or 4 of them were talking about what is that on the map. It was just a kind of blob, and that blob was the old Balsall Heath railway station. And they were quite fascinated, and they didn't know that their local area ever had a railway station. It doesn't anymore. There is talk of it coming back one day. But that had the kids really talking, and that's a really good local educational thing to go on, because that's them teaching themselves about local geography and local history. If anyone wants to know more about planning for real or neighbourhood planning, I'd be happy to give them all the knowledge I possibly can. Personally, they can certainly find me via Ashram Moseley. A quick Google on that, and just look up for Peter Helly, or contact the organisation, ask for Peter Helly, and I'd be happy to explain both and other solutions as well. But certainly, if anyone will, and I'd be happy to talk about how social housing, why it's important for social housing to embrace things like planning for real and things like neighbourhood planning.